look happy for once.
Oh,
'Cause
what?
I never look happy, apparently.
I have one rule. As a couple, we do not dress alike, and we did not.
I've been wearing this all day, so this is on you, my friend.
Should have called each other ahead of time.
Maybe you should have just opened your eyes and paid attention to what I was wearing.
No, too busy, absorbing in everything else. So yeah, well, we did it. We broke that rule. Never again. Yeah, so we've got quite the guest on tonight. Hey.
We really do. For all you parents out there that are doing the dual parent role in different homes role, you are going to want to watch this show, especially if you are at odds and opposite sides of the fence of the bioweapon. One wants to inject your children with it and the other one doesn't, because this is exactly what the show is about tonight. The story of one gentleman and his fight against the bioweapon and what ended up happening to him. Most parents say that they would die for their children. They love them so much they would die for them, and yet we saw so many parents do the complete opposite.
Right. Yeah. Not even when somebody's handing them, just ask these questions when you go to the nurse. They just refuse to do that. So it was a mind-boggling time for sure. And of course the bioweapon, we're talking about the C-19 shot.
You had to say it. We all know what the bioweapon is. We don't have to say it.
Some people are new. So yeah, it's a well-established bioweapon at this point. So
yeah. But even the police helped those parents who wanted to, bioweapon up their children. I was put in handcuffs and sat in the back of a cruiser because I just tried to give information to parents so that they had informed consent before they did it. Even as they're dragging their children into those clinics, kicking and screaming and crying, they still would not take the information, and the police still put me in handcuffs.
Yeah. Well, it's a terrible analogy. Most people, when they meet you, want to see you in a handcuffed back of the car within 5 minutes or less. Yeah. So.
But God was on my side that day.
Yes,
he knew I was doing the right thing. He was on my side.
And you tell it in 2 minutes or less, but tell that story.
2 minutes or less? Okay. Yeah. We were at the clinic. There was a group of people with our sign saying, no, no, no. I decided I really didn't want to be the group of people that were screaming and yelling at parents who were taking scared children into a clinic already. So I walked away from the crowd with a paramedic with me and was trying to give out information plus the adverse reaction sheets that our government does have available for you to fill out should you actually experience one. They're going to reject the idea that you did, but you still have the ability to at least send one in. So I was trying to give those to parents, plus a lot of information. Parents wouldn't have it. The police finally saw what I was doing as one father was screaming and yelling at me. And I'm like, sir, I'm just trying to give you some information because I know they didn't give you any in there.
1 minute left.
And so the police came over, told me I needed to go back over with my friends. I said, no, I don't want to go over there. And he said, well, what, you can't approach people. I said, I'm not approaching people. I'm trying to give them information, which is completely different. He said, put down your phone. I said, I'm not putting down my phone. People need this information. He grabbed my phone, put it on top of a truck that I couldn't reach, and handcuffed me, walked me to the police car, stuck me in the back of the car. 45 minutes of me jibber jabbering every bit of information that I knew, telling him he was doing the wrong thing, I was doing the right thing, and that he needed to do his job and go in there and make sure that those criminals in there were actually doing their job and giving informed consent. He's trying to give me a ticket for trespassing and trying to get me gone from the area, and his printer would not work. It worked all day long. He'd been ticketing people all day long. His printer would not work. It just kept printing draft all over the tickets he would print. His buddy comes over. What's taking so long? He's like, I can't get the printer to work. They took the printer apart. They put it back together. It's still printed draft, draft, draft. His other buddy comes over. He's, what's going on? He's like, I can't get the printer to work. So he pulls it apart. He puts it back together. It prints off more draft, draft, draft. And he's like, okay, and the whole time I'm like, do you know? Do you know? Do you know? You might want to look up. Hey, do you know? Do you want my information? Hey, hey, hey. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to give you a ticket. I just want you out of my car. And I'm like, I'd gladly take your ticket if you just go in there and do your job. And he's like, get out of my car. And I'm like, well, I can't. You have to open the door and then you have to uncuff me. And all the people who know me were like, oh, he arrested the wrong girl.
Right.
And I believe he felt the same way by the
Right.
time. And he finally said, you know what? Just go back over with your friends. Just go back over. and he let me go
Wow.
back over and hand out information again.
And I'm sure it won't be the last time. So tonight it's sort of a deviation from what we normally do.
Yes.
We have a father telling his story, and this is quite the adventure. We could lead you in with bios and whatnot. Instead, we're just going to bring Michael Jackson on to tell his own story. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Good.
We're doing well. Thank you.
We are so happy and proud to have you here on the show sharing your story. And I want to thank Dana, Miss Raven Metcalf out in Newfoundland, who shared your story with us and connected us. So thank you, Raven. And thank you, Michael, for being brave.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The support is good and the comments help because it's a hard battle. But people like Dana and like yourself, it's amazing how many people don't even know my story across the country. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. I think a lot of this has happened so quick and so fast because I haven't had any support, and they've shadow banned me on most of my interviews. They'll get a whole bunch of views and then just stop dead and disappear. So I think it's good to keep going and keep telling people because it just doesn't seem to reach the people it needs to reach.
Yeah, the shadow banning, the visibility filtering, as they call it, it's a real thing. We're, welcome to the club. It means you're doing something right, at least.
Exactly.
So, if we all wanted to stand up for our kids and have try and, fight for a better world for them, at least that you can proudly say that you're doing that because you're in the shadow ban club. So, at least there's, you're on the right track, and that's, but getting that word out is very difficult. And like you say, the downside is that a lot of people across the country don't know your story. So, So where do we begin here?
Okay. Well, I guess we begin back in 2021 in the spring when they shut my daughter's school down and things like that. I'm divorced. So I'm married to a woman who I met here working at a restaurant. She's from the Philippines. And met her here in the little town near where I live called Carnduff. I live in Caryville, Saskatchewan. And we got divorced after, I think it was 2.5 years sort of thing. It was terrible, the whole marriage, actually. The only blessing was our daughter. But when she left, she took off with my daughter. She actually kidnapped her, disappeared in the middle of a snowstorm. Just told me she was going to check the mail like, the dads do, where they go to get a jug of milk and don't come back. Well, she did that with my daughter, and took me months to find her with the police. And of course, I got at the time a court order, which is called an ex parte order, which means they're not notified because they can't be found. And I was supposed to have my daughter returned to me. The courts never stood behind it, or the police. But anyways, she ended up moving to Regina, which is over a 3-hour drive from where I live. And we went through the process of a divorce and child custody. And it was obviously, like most of them, it was horrible. It was nothing but lies, accusing me of anything she could, and trying to keep me from my daughter. So I fought in the courts in Saskatchewan, which is kind of important because it leads up to the current situation. I was never a father to lay down my rights. And, like everybody says, wait till they're older. That's kind of bullshit. That doesn't really happen that way. So I fought as hard as I could in the courts without a lawyer, trying to get proper, fair access with my daughter. And I went through the appeal courts. I went all through, at the time it was called Queen's Bench, with many different judges, and never received any justice. It was just accusations. They were never backed up. Just accusation after accusation against me. And, but I just kept fighting. So we had our divorce in 2019, our custody hearing, 5-day hearing. And she was awarded main home, but it was joint custody. And they gave her decision-making because of all the lies she told in our custody trial. But she had a legal obligation through court to discuss anything with me when it comes to decisions with our daughter. So I, spiritual, sports, after school, whatever, school and health, all that was supposed to be attempt to come to an agreement. But if not, after, a failed process, she had the last say. Now that decision I didn't agree with, and that was actually under appeal in 2021 in the Court of Appeal, Saskatchewan. I appealed the whole thing because it was just a sham. So in the spring, I started reaching out to her. She would never talk to me. I hadn't talked to her in years. Since she left our house in 2017, we barely ever had a conversation. She wouldn't discuss anything about our daughter. She was all like, I'm in control, you don't have any rights, blah, 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 the whole situation. So in the spring, when they talked about the vaccine and that, I started sending her through Viber, the only way we communicated about pickups and drop-offs with my daughter, about her plans with the vaccine. So for 8.5 months, I believe it was, I tried contacting her. She never responded one single time with anything, nothing. So when it came to November, I don't know if you guys remember, so in 2021, they went through age groups and approved the vaccine, Health Canada.
Yeah.
So when it was coming to November, we were waiting for the decision on 5 to 11-year-olds. My daughter was 7 at the time. So we were waiting. End of November there, around Remembrance Day, they started hinting that a decision was going to come out. So I got a little more forward and started sending her lots more messages. Like, look at, I need to know what your position is, blah, blah, blah. Refused, never answered me whatsoever. So, sorry, I'm just going to shut the ringer off on my phone. I didn't know I'd left. Usually I shut it off right away and I forgot. Sorry. I don't want anybody to interrupt us.
No, your story is worth hearing without interruptions. It's
yes. Well, it's very complicated. So it takes a little bit to get through it, and to, I try not to go off topic because it can just derail it. So anyways, during around Remembrance Day, I was really starting to push the fact. Again, zero response from her. So I sent an email to her lawyer and I said, listen, her name was Deborah Haid, a very corrupt lawyer, like most of them. I said, listen, according to our custody agreement, even though it's under appeal right now, your client has to discuss this vaccine issue with me. She has to put the time and effort in and have discussions. She's refusing. And the lawyer sent this back, which tells me it was all a big setup. Said, there's no vaccine yet been approved, so we don't have any comment. So instead of them saying, if it comes out and it's approved, we're going to do it, they refuse to comment, which means, because since this has all happened, people have said, oh, well, you should have done this and you should have done that in the court beforehand. Well, right. You can't. I can't file a motion in court to discuss the issue of the vaccine when there's no vaccine approved.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's something a lot of people don't understand. So anyways, it came down to, I think I had her for Remembrance Day, which was the 11th and 21, and I was supposed to return her on the Monday. So I had her I think I picked her up on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I had her till the Monday. And at this time, I hadn't seen her in 3 months because she was hiding her from me and canceling my visits, which she did all the time too. So there's lots of people say, oh, Michael Jackson never returned his daughter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I lived 3 hours away. I didn't have a pot to piss in because I wasn't working because of health issues. So sometimes I'd be late where I couldn't get her back to the 3-hour drive, and she would never come pick her up. She would just call the police. It was always drama, right? So I reminded her lawyer that you can't do that, and they just ignored me. So then they announced it, I believe, on the Friday afternoon. CBC announced that the vaccine had been approved by Health Canada. And so I texted her back and I said, I'm not, what are you doing? What are you doing? And the first time I got a comment back, it said, I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do. And I was like, I made up my mind right then and there that I was not going to return my daughter because I know what that means. And unless I had something concrete that would say she wouldn't be vaccinated. But I didn't care what happened. I didn't care. Like, there's no way, there's nothing that would have made me bring her back to be vaccinated. I was willing to put my life on the line to stop her from being vaccinated. And I there's nobody convinced me otherwise. So
So can I just stop you right there really quick?
absolutely.
How did you know that it was a danger to your daughter? Like what research had you done? Like what had tipped you off?
So I was watching the Barrington Declaration. I was watching other doctors who were talking about it. There was a Jewish doctor, and I can't believe I can't memorize his name, but he's since passed away. And he
Zelenko.
did
Zelenko.
yes, I followed him quite closely, and he did a symposium in New York City for the Hasidic Jews of New York City, and it was a 5-day symposium. And he talked about all the women that were coming in with menstrual issues, not getting their periods, or too much. There were some who had had miscarriages, and he was presenting evidence to tie the two together. But there was other things as well from other doctors. But the main thing was him that I believed. Right, he just seemed like a straightforward guy. And there was other people online, like the doctor who passed away in the States. Is it Buttar or?
Oh, Bukacharia or something like that.
Yeah. There was lots of doctors I was watching and listening to, and I was just, my daughter is extremely healthy, like strong, healthy girl, and there's no way I was going to give her any vaccine whatsoever for COVID.
Right.
And another thing that's important to point out at this time is that my wife, when my daughter was born, didn't want to vaccinate her at the hospital. And she just threw it on me. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, it causes, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. It's been a while. Like autism and all this. And I had heard Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey talk about it in the 90s on Larry King and things like that. So I'd known that argument was out there, but I didn't do any research about it. So when she said that, I was compliant. I was like, okay, well, if I want what's best. Yeah, I believe in the immune system. I'm not interested in vaccinating her either. So she never got vaccinated. I think she had the one in the hospital because they put up a fight or something, and I didn't stop it, and she didn't.
Yeah, but vitamin K shot. Yeah.
But after that, she never got anything else. But then when she left me and took off, supposedly, she got her all filled up with everything, MMR and everything, all in one day before she started kindergarten. And she didn't ask me. She just told me. And it was an all in one thing day. And my daughter had told me that she was running around the nursing office, the hotel or hospital room, trying to fight them. They had to literally grab her and hold her down at 5 years old. And I wasn't there. I didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
But that was her mentality. And even in our custody trial in 2019, and, thank God for God, because he, you wonder how things in the past, fill a program and it works out in the end. On the witness stand in our custody trial in 2000, I think it was 18 in December, but it didn't get released till 19. She got up there and I questioned her about that, and, did not know what the future was going to hold. But on the witness stand, and I had the transcripts, I used them at my trial for this kidnapping sort of thing. She stated she didn't believe in vaccines because she believed in the immune system. And that she never had vaccines and our daughter didn't need them. That's what she said on the stand in our custody trial. And I looked all that up and had that. But that's just to show you the kind of psychopath I was dealing with, right? It was a total weaponization of our daughter from the day it wasn't even it was from the day she was pregnant, actually. From 6 months when she was pregnant, she threatened to take my daughter to the Philippines unborn, and I would never see her again. So I'm the type of guy, and, a lot of people have called me an asshole and this and that, but I really don't care. I believe in my convictions. I stand firm and I never back down and I never change who I am. The mean what you say and say what you mean. That's kind of the person I am. So going forward, so I had her for that weekend. She said, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. And I said, I'm not returning her then. She said, oh, you blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, I'm not returning her until we talk about the vaccine. So what does she do? Of course, she calls the police.
Sure.
Warrant of RCMP, which a lot of people, again, don't realize. The RCMP, the city police, they have no right to come to your door on overholding. Overholding is a civil court issue, and police forces in Canada are not have no authority in a civil discourse. None. And a lot of people don't know that and don't believe that, but it's true. A policeman cannot come to your door when you refuse to turn your daughter and kick your door down and take your daughter. They have no right. They just do it because they like to get involved in domestic, right? Especially for the women. So when they come, a court can order that, but it's not given on a situation like mine was. So I refused her. The police come to my door. I said, nope, I'm not returning her, blah, blah, blah. And they know me and I know my law. So they leave. And then my ex drives down here, even though I told her not, and still comes back to my house with the police and causes a big scene. My daughter's in the house. She's out in the road honking her horn and all this, but I did not return my daughter. So she went back. So then, like it's supposed to happen, I get served with a court application. And what they're seeking is a police clause so that the police do have the right to knock my door down or do whatever to return my daughter. So it's like a week later, week and a half, something like that. And it's on video. It's not even video. It's just a phone court hearing because at the time, COVID, you know, they had all the courts closed and everything. Right. So people wouldn't die, of course. And so we go up before what's called a Justice Lay, L-A-Y-H, Saskatchewan judge. And the other side gives their story and says, oh, he's just using this as an excuse to overhold his daughter. He does this all the time. You know, he's an evil man, blah, 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 all the accusations, blah, blah, blah. And he's faking it. So then the judge says, what's your position, Mr. Jackson? And I explain. And as soon as I talk about the vaccine, he says in the phone, oh, you're one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you know right away you're done because they're mandated by the government to do this. They're all corrupt. All the judges in this country are corrupt. So then he says to me, any evidence you bring against the vaccine, the other side will just bring better evidence and you're not going to win. And the worst thing that's going to happen to your daughter is a sore arm.
Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to jump right in there. You have court orders. You're in court. You have 80% of the population that says you're crazy. You have, respected doctors and health officials and government saying this is safe and effective. At this point, this is all we knew. And at any point, did you judge or did you question your own judgment? Because, I mean, they did a good job of convincing us that we could be crazy here.
The only time I questioned it was when it first happened and they closed my daughter's school down. Like we're talking in the first, in 21, when it first happened in the spring and they closed our schools down. And she told me, I didn't know, right? And I said, well, then I'll bring her here and keep her safe because I didn't know what it was, right? This was before anybody knew. And she was like, no. And I'm like, what are you going to do? I'll put her in a daycare. Well, the daycares are closed. I'll find one. So even during that period, when everybody's freaking out and doesn't know, she still wouldn't allow me to have my daughter here full time to take care of her. She'd rather send her to some strange daycare. So I knew, and after that, I never questioned it. Never. Right. I'm a strong believer in Jesus Christ. And I know what God's position is on this. And I know about health now more than ever. And I just knew that it was bullshit and that it was control. And a lot of watching people sell their souls to go have a burger or watch a movie was enough evidence for me that something was wrong, right?
Right. Yeah, and since then we've learned that the kids don't have ACE2 receptors in their lungs, so they actually can't transmit the disease or catch it. They were 1,000 times more likely to get sick or die from the vaccine than they were from actually getting
more times to get hit by lightning than they were
to die from COVID. But the vaccine was way more deadly than the sickness. We know that Anita and Nan signed the contract that said that these are not safe and effective, and they went around and lied to everyone. So we know all that now, but you didn't know any of that then.
No.
And you were going to take
at the time of taking her and going into hiding, or I wouldn't say taking her is the wrong word because it was overholding because I had her in my care. So at that time, I knew that Health Canada had already on their own website has a vaccine injury reporting system. Well, I don't know if people know that. We all know about VAERS, which now they say is compromised. But Health Canada weekly reports their own. And I mean weekly as in strength-wise. Like, they don't push it out there. They don't say too much, but there are reports. And even at that time, there was thousands of injuries in November of 2021. And there was even a few deaths in the country that were on their own website.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And
there
that
was
website is the AEFI, Adverse Effects from Immunization website.
on Health Canada. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, anyways, we have this court hearing. The judge says, blah, blah, blah. And then he reserves his decision. And they always reserve their decisions because, first of all, they're not capable of thinking on their own. I'm pretty sure that in our legal system, just about every time they reserve a decision, they're going up the hill of shit somewhere getting advice or permission on what to do, especially in a case like mine, right?
Yes.
So I believe it was Chief Justice Richards who was the Chief Justice of Saskatchewan, who I dealt with previously in many hearings where he lied and actually committed crimes in my case, where he willingly instructed just trying to remember the name, the woman who runs the courts is called you think I should know. I'm having a lot of brain farts today. I've been
Crown
busy.
Attorney?
No, the one who sets up the court times and all that. She works in the courts, or the
county
whatever.
clerk?
Yes. So the Court of Appeal, Melanie Baldwin, was told by Justice Chief Richards not to release transcripts of any appeal court hearings that I had in over 2.5 years. And it just lots of corruption in my case. So anyways, Justice Lee reserves his decision. I should stop going off topic here. It's going to get confusing. So he reserves his decision, and I'm sitting at home with my daughter. And I know that the reason why, the minute he says, I reserve your decision, I know that he's going to get off the phone. He's going to go to his chambers. He's going to write his order instructing that the police have the power to come and get my daughter. And he's going to leave me out of it. And next thing you know, I'll have the cops at my door and I won't be able to do anything because I know how to put a stay on a decision. And a lot of people don't know that. It's called an injunction in the States, sometimes called an injunction in Canada. But when a judge writes a decision, you can put a notice of appeal in immediately, like in the same hour, and you can stop it. It's called a stay. And that court order has no effect. And they know that I know that because I'd done it in the past. So I wait here for like an hour and a half, and I call the court. And I talk to the clerk, and I say, this is just Queen's Bench. And I say, has Justice Lay released his decision on the hearing this morning? Oh, yes. Oh, really? So why wasn't I notified? Oh, you weren't? Oh, sorry, we forgot. But your ex-wife's lawyer was notified. So I call the ex-wife's lawyer's office, Deborah Haid, and I get a voicemail. She's gone for the weekend. Of course, this is on a Friday, right? 11 o'clock in the morning, a lawyer's gone for the weekend. So it was all a setup, right? So I call back to the court and I say, listen, they're gone. I'm self-represented. You should have sent this to me immediately. Email it to me immediately. So, and of course, I'm freaking out now because it's like 11 in the morning and the police could be at my door any second and take my daughter. Right. So I know that they would do anything to take her because they're ignorant and stupid. So I get on they email it to me right away. I get on my computer, blah, 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 blah. I draft up a notice of appeal and blah, blah, blah. But I have to swear it and fax it to them to make it stick. Right. So I get my daughter in the car and we drive to a town called Redvers. It's like 40 minutes away. And we're fortunate enough that, we get out of my house and we get there. I get it sworn with my affidavit. I fax it to the Court of Appeal. It wasn't Melanie Baldwin at that time. It was Amy Gruthouse is her name. She was the clerk of the Court of Appeal. And I fax it in. I call her, confirm she got it. Yes, we've received it. Yes. And I got a text back or email back. The Justice Lay's order is stayed. So that means the police cannot take my daughter from me. They have no power whatsoever. It has to go now to the Court of Appeal. So I'm driving home. As I'm driving home, I notify a friend, Sean. He's my best friend. I say, call the Cardiff RCMP detachment. I forward the email to him, and he forwards it to the Cardiff RCMP detachment right away and lets them know that the order is stayed. I'm driving home. I get about 5 minutes from my house, and my phone rings, and it's, of course, what do they do when the cops call you? It's always unknown number.
Unknown number, yeah.
And so, but I know who it is. I pick it up and they're like at my door. And these are Constable Dick, D-Y-C-K, who's just this degenerate cop who's been like, 15 years and still like getting switched from detachment to detachment, angry, drunk kind of guy. And another one was a Chinese guy named T-S-A-N-G, Constable Tsang. So they're at my door. I'm on the phone with Dick, and he's telling me he has this court order, and we need to come to the door. They're going to take my daughter. And I say, actually, you don't. I inform them that I put a stay on it, and that they need to get off my property. They're going to be charged with trespassing. And of course, if you go to my X page, and I'll redo this again if need be, but if you go in my history, all this is posted. I have the 911 tapes. I have the dash cam from them sitting in front of my house talking to me on the phone. It's all on my Twitter page, so people can watch it. It's got like almost 200,000 views between all of that stuff, because people like a train wreck. They don't seem to care about the appeal process, but they like to watch police breaking down doors illegally, right?
Yes.
So they're talking to me on the phone. I'm telling this. They're saying, you don't know the law. You're a lawyer. You tried to tell us this before. We know the law. And then they even come up with a statement in the video saying the judge, and it was a man. They said the judge told them that there's not allowed to have a stay on this, that the child must be returned. Just like total nincompoops. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. They're just lying through their asses. So I'm telling them to call the Court of Appeal to get confirmation. They're like, F you, you don't know what you're talking about. We're coming in. And then they, after going back and forth in the video, you see that they say, oh, he told me he gave us permission. So he says, just for the camcorder purpose, that I gave them permission on the phone to kick my door down, which is just absurd.
What?
So they get their battering ram. It's all on camera. They beat the door down and they go in there. And of course, I'm not home. I told them I wasn't home.
Right.
They come out at the end, Constable Dick, and he's carrying a 30-year-old pellet gun that's a crank. It's called a Diana. It's just this old single-shot pellet gun. And he's walking outside in front of the camera, and he's got it like he's holding an assault rifle. Like he's got some sort of trophy, right?
Wow.
Then they leave there, and they go door to door. I live in a town with I don't know. I don't think there's 200 people here. There's no variety store, gas station. It's just this little town in the middle of nowhere. They go door to door telling everybody I'm wanted on child abduction and gun charges.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm deadly, and all these sorts of things, right? Lies. And so I don't come home. I go to a friend's house, and I stay at the friend's house. And over the weekend, we don't know what to do. Just trying to figure things out. I pull my SIM card out and all that sort of stuff. And I call the Crown in Regina on Monday morning, and I say, listen, I don't know what's going on, but have you guys really got a warrant out for my arrest on gun charges and all this? Doesn't seem, blah, 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 and they wouldn't give me an answer, right? So I said, you know what? There's no way. I know I'm in my legal rights. I know what the law states. I'm going home. So we came home on Tuesday. This was on a Friday there at my house. We came home on Tuesday, and in the middle of the night, or it might have been Monday, I'm not sure. We came in the middle of the night. We snuck back into our house, left all the blinds closed, and just kept quiet, right? I have a dog. So the next morning, it was either Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, we take him for a walk. And we just go around one block, one street and back in this little town, because just to be safe, right? And sure enough, when I get home, I didn't have my phone with me. There's a message on there, and it's the cop. His name is Ignatiuk, Ignatiuk. He's the sergeant in charge in Cardiff at the detachment. And there's a message on there saying, hey, I see you're home. We've been notified, because obviously everybody's looking. I'm in danger now, right?
Yeah.
So I see you're home. Just so you know, we called the Court of Appeal, and we recognize that there is a stay, and we don't have any rights, and it has to go to court. We're just going to leave you alone. We just glad to see everybody's home safe. Total lie. Within, 10 minutes of me reading that message, I hear sirens. Pop open the blind, and there's like 3 cop cars at my house. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon or something like that. They've got their emergency horns, plus the sirens and all their flashing lights, and they're parked all around my house. And they come up, and I have 3 doors. I have a shop. It's a great big 40 by 70 shop, 18 feet high. And I live in the top part, and the bottom is all shop. So I have 3 entry doors. At every door, there's RCMP kicking, yelling, screaming. We have a warrant for your arrest. We're coming in. You return the daughter, blah, 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 blah. We have a court order. Just lies, trying to put fear into me, right? I just ignored them. They stayed for about 15, 20 minutes, and they left. And I got another message from him saying, I think this along the same bullshit, just trying to con me. I don't remember because I don't have records of that because they seized my phones. Still haven't got them back. And so then we start eat supper. It's dark. So it's like 6 o'clock. I don't remember. I have the 911 tapes. They're also posted on my X page. And because I had to call them. So again, it's dark now. They come back, all the lights and horns. They're banging at my door. We're coming in. We have a warrant. We're breaking your door down. And I'll tell you again, people don't know this in this country. They cannot break the door down unless they have a warrant. If they have a warrant, they don't knock and say, please. They kick the door down. They never had a warrant. They made it up. So they never broke the door down. They just kept banging on it. Sarah's up here. She's freaking out. She's scared because she doesn't trust them. She's never trusted them because every time I've dealt with them, they've been that way, right? And she trusts me, but you have cops outside banging the door down. She knows why she's not going home. I had that discussion with her. She's very intelligent. During the whole process of COVID, I educated her, which is my position. It's not brainwashing your child. It's your responsibility to teach your child, right? So she knew what was going on. So she was scared. She didn't want to go home. She wanted to be vaccinated. And they wouldn't leave. They kept it up. And I was on the phone with a friend of mine who is a police officer in Regina, like a city cop. And he told me, he said, you should just let him in. But he says, you don't have to. If they had a warrant, they'd be coming through. So I end up opening up the window on my second floor. They're out there yelling and screaming. And they say, you have to talk to Ignatiuk or we're not leaving. We're coming through. And I said, you don't got a warrant. You don't got nothing. Oh, well, we do. And blah, 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 blah. So I make a deal with this cop on the phone that I'll turn myself in for the warrant, this fake warrant. I never intended to. I totally lied to him. Yep, no worries. I'll turn myself in a week or something. So they leave. So then next step is the Court of Appeal. Now that generally, I put that stay on Justice Lay's order. Usually takes like a few weeks. If somebody wants to, you can apply to remove the stay. So if you don't agree with, if you think it's important for now that stay comes off, not that the actual appeal gets heard, that can take like up to a year, but the stay that stops a court order, they can apply the other side to have that lifted so that she goes home and then we deal with the appeal later. But then that just makes it moot because then she'd be vaccinated, right?
Correct.
So I go to the Court of Appeal. It's by phone again. And this time it's Justice Leuer, Leuer. And he's now, believe it or not, the new Chief Justice of Saskatchewan. Oh, yeah. It's good. All the lawyers, all the judges, and in my case, have all been promoted. Even my ex-wife's lawyer is now sitting on the appeal court. So, so we have the hearing, and it's by phone, and I'm with my daughter in the car, and we're packed up. We're ready to leave if we got to leave. If the decision, we already know what the decision is going to be. So he does ask, though. He asked my ex's lawyer, can you not just hold off on the vaccine for a couple of weeks so we can hash this out in court? And they say, no, not at all. So what does that tell you would happen the minute my daughter gets returned?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to the doctors or the clinic and
on the way home, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not, I know what's up. I'm not stupid, even though they treat me that way. So he says, again, I'm going to reserve my decision. Of course you are. So we leave and we go into hiding. And we're in hiding for 3 months. While we're in hiding, because of all the crap going on and the news, like she's on the news every day, CBC crying her eyes out. She never says anything about the vaccine. She never says anything about the best interest of her daughter. She does interviews and just says how mean of a husband I was. because I didn't conform to her rules, right?
Right.
And I didn't sell my place and give her money and disappear to some tropical island with her. She never about my daughter. It's never been, even in my custody trial, even in my criminal trial, she never once gave a reason or a response for why she wanted Sarah vaccinated. Never even talked about it. So we leave. So while we're in hiding, we get a hold of Rebel News, and we want to show everybody out there that my daughter's safe and that she's happy, she's where she wants to be, and the reasons for why we left, because the news is lying, right?
Yes.
So Rebel News sends out Mocha Bears again to where we're in hiding. He's a great guy, got nothing against him. Rebel News, on the other hand, garbage, absolute garbage. So they send him out to where we are, and we do an interview. And he interviews my daughter, and she tells him everything. I love my dad. This is where I want to be. I'm happy. I don't want to go. I don't like being with my mommy because my ex-wife is incredibly controlling and manipulative, and my daughter was never close to her. So we do the interview, and then Sheila Gunn Reid, who worked it all out, we're texting back and forth. Everything's good. She comes back with, or I contact her. It's like a week. And she's like, oh, we're waiting for a legal department. And then she comes back and says, oh, we want to interview your wife to get her side. And I was like, no. Now, a lot of people, this is controversial because people say, well, why wouldn't you? Because I knew what Rebel Media would do with that. They would turn it into a soap opera.
Yes.
And it's not about what this is about. This is about my daughter getting the vaccine or not. You can look at all the news reports and see her and her position. You don't have to interview and do a back and forth because they want the ratings, right? It's not about helping me or my child. It's about raising money for them. So I said no. And then eventually Sheila Gunn Reid says I'm a piece of shit and she's not my media agent and I can go bleep myself, and never heard from them again. Now, I don't know if that was her words, but that was the connotation and the attitude. I'm not quoting what she said, but that's the way I was treated. So then waited a week and finally got a hold of somebody else who was Laura Lynn Thompson from the West Coast.
Yep.
So I did an interview with her. And in that interview, Sarah talks, I talk. I'm in a bit of disguise because I'm in a small town. I don't want to be recognized. And we get it out there. And everybody knows the reason now and everything's cool. So then within another week of that, I enter into negotiations with the RCMP, which nobody talks about. So within 3 weeks of leaving, 4 weeks, I was negotiating with the RCMP High Crimes Division, because of course this is a high crime.
Yes, keeping your children safe from bioweapons is a high crime. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I start negotiating with them through a third party. That same person, Sean, who's a good friend of mine. They just play games, back and forth games. So what I said is, listen, they said, what do you want? So I send them a list, and my list was like number one, and whether it was one on the list doesn't matter. They seem to think that if whatever order you put them is importance, right? But I just listed out, and I said that she's not vaccinated, and not a promise, not a guarantee, some sort of a court document that is written in stone. And at the time, I knew that could be an impossibility because they can just say later, well, we were forced to do it, so it's null and void, right? But whatever. If they were going to vaccinate her, I never would have brought her home. And I can say that right now. I don't really care what anybody thinks. I said the same thing in court. I'm not a coward. I'm not backtracking on what I did. If I had my choice, I would have done whatever I could to not vaccinate her. There was no price I wasn't willing to pay. So they I get negotiation with them, and then I give Sarah the opportunity to give her opinion on what she wants when she goes home. Because when I tell her that I'm negotiating and we're going to have to respond to this, she starts getting very afraid. No, I don't want to go home. They're going to lie. They're going to do it anyways. My school's going to lie. Because I sent her to Regina Christian School thinking they were led by the Spirit of the Lord, and they had a vaccine clinic at her private Christian school. And so, yeah, it's a joke. It's a real joke what this country's become. So anyways, she wrote down, if I come back, they can't do this. My mommy can't force me. My school can't force me. And one thing she said, believe it or not, in there was, my mommy can't refuse to feed me. So right away, I know, without ever being found out before, that part of punishment that my wife exercises on my daughter is to hold back food.
Starvation.
Yeah, I can't even explain how upset I was. And I put other things. I said, if I return her, I will go to jail and I will do my time, but I want bail. Because when I get back, I don't want my daughter being forced to be alone with the monster and not having any contact with her father. So I have to still, it can be supervised, whatever you want, but I have to maintain a relationship with my daughter and I have to get bail until I get trial. And there's a few other demands right there. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah. And they send me this affidavit, which is nothing. An affidavit is, I write a document promising you that, unicorns and Fruit Loops for the rest of your life, guaranteed. I get it sworn and then they enter that into court. I can lie, tell the truth, whatever. It's just an affidavit. Doesn't mean anything. So what they provided was an affidavit saying that she wouldn't vaccinate her right away. She would let the court decide.
Okay.
That is not nothing. That means zero to me. Not only is it not a court order or anything like that, it's just her making a commitment and it's still leaving it up to the court, which we know what they're going to do.
Exactly.
Right.
So for all the people out there, the naysayers, these are the facts, right?
Yes.
So then it goes on. They give me back this bullshit back and forth. And I say, find me someone who can negotiate because you're just pulling my leg and I don't have time for that. And it waited 3 days. And then in the course of my trial, they say I broke down negotiations and refused because, whatever. But anyways, so then a couple weeks after that, February 22nd or 23rd, no, maybe it was even 24th, we're in Vernon, BC. I'm actually on the phone calling the JCCF. Please help. You guys are so raising all these millions of dollars to help us poor Canadians fighting government tyranny. Could you please just do me a small favor and take over negotiations with the RCMP so we can put an end to this and everybody can be happy? Nope, can't do that for you. Sorry. So I hang up the phone. I'm calling these lawyers in different places and they pull up because I was on the phone. I was having a burner phone, but I'd called somebody who I thought was better of a friend and they ended up handing the phone to the RCMP. And I don't even know if it was intentional or by accident, but they ended up getting the number and then traced it. And I was shutting it off and pulling the SIM card all the time, but I had to plug it in and put it on to make those calls. And that's how they tracked it. They arrested me. They wouldn't even let me say goodbye to her because I got out of the car to meet them, to show them everything was, no scene, right? Sarah's in the back seat freaking out. I'm like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Well, she's freaking because she thinks she's going to go home and get vaccinated, right? And so they take me, they won't let me speak to her. They say, no, not after what you did. They lock me up. Then they extradite me to Regina. They charge me with Section 282 of the Criminal Code. And this is very important, which is called abduction and contravention of a parenting order. Section 282. Now, this criminal code charge was revamped, believe it or not, just before COVID. And what they did is it used to be a slap on the wrist for parents who were pissed off at the other parent who'd taken for a week or whatever. And now it's like it's a heavy felony punishable by 10 years in prison. So I get charged, first one, under the brand new law. So I'm their precedent. I'm their example, right? So they locked me up in Regina Provincial Correctional Center. It's a supermax jail, one of the probably top 2 or 3 jails in the whole country. And the reason is because it's all Indigenous gang members. I was out of there's 75 people per range. There's maybe 4 white guys. So I was panicking, right? Thinking I'm going to get, dusted off, right?
Yeah.
No, they actually put me with the pedophiles as well.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. There's 3 floors in every range. The first one is young guys who like to fight and stab all the time. The second floor is murderers and more serious guys. and the third floor is pedophiles. So they put me on the third floor, and I don't even know. I don't know I'm with the pedophiles. I'm under 21-hour a day lockdown. So for 21 hours a day, you're in your cell. So eventually, the head guy, the prisoner who kind of runs the range, they call him the Alpha, he comes up and knocks on the door and says, listen, man, you don't have to worry. We've been watching your story for months, and everybody here has your back. We all think you did the right thing, and we're going to protect you in here. And I'm getting you out of here. So he gets me pulled out of there, gets me brought down to the second floor where all the heavies are, gets me my bottom bunk, which you never get when you go to jail. You get the top. Puts the guy off the top, and like they protect me, take care of me. The guards were out to kill me. The Regina Provincial Correctional Center has some really sick ass guards, and it's a real problem there. And Jay Marshall, I think, was one of my guards. There's a few of them. Jared. I mean, these guys were serious. They open up, just like they tell you, the natives, but nobody believes them. They open up cell doors in the middle of the night and beat the shit out of people. They let people who are bleeding to death from suicide just lay in their cells till they're dead. It's a horrible place to be.
Wow.
And what they did with me is, on a weekly basis, they would change out my cellmate. So, people on the second floor with the heavies, they're waiting a couple of years for a trial. They've done something very serious, right? And other guys, too, can be waiting a long time, bottom. But on our floor, a lot of the guys are waiting, 2-3 years for their trial. So they get a cellmate they like, they get along with, they become friends, and the same cellmate for years, right? Because you get along.
Yeah.
With me, every time they would give me a new cellmate, like by the week. Every time the craziest fentanyl addicted, AIDS infested, or, Hep C or whatever, that the worst of the worst come in and crazy, they put them in my cell, hoping something would go wrong, right? But God told me the day I went in there, he said, not a hair on your head will be harmed. And I never did. I mean, I've had people in my face yelling and screaming, threatening, but nobody ever did anything. God protected me. But they screwed with my food, the guards, all the time. I'm kind of diabetic. I am, but I try to do it on my own. But the diet there, it's all bread and pasta. I was getting sick, losing lots of weight. So I fought for that. They screwed with it, shook it, did stuff to it all the time. And so I went on a hunger strike at one point for 3 weeks, lost like 23 pounds. I went in there at 265 and come out at 218.
Wow.
Lost over 50 pounds. I was in there for a year. And then that whole time, the guards, when they would do searches of cells, Jay Marshall and these others, they'd rip my, I'd have scripture stuck to the wall. They'd rip it all down. They'd throw all my song sheets on the floor, pour stuff on it, just to get at me, right? Because I stood up too. Like, I never backed down. When they would tell me to do stupid shit or whatever, I'd tell them, fuck off. Like,
right.
Whoa. Like, I'm not afraid of anybody, right? And so they hated me because I would get other inmates going too, because, at one point they shut the heat off for a month in our cell in December, and I got a petition going and it got turned on the next day. But they just hated me because I had support, right?
Right.
So anyways, we go through this whole thing. I'm in jail. The first bail hearing, I'm denied, of course. Second bail hearing, Justice Krogan, get a load of this. So the second bail hearing, I have a lawyer, legal aid, and the Crown gets up, my transgendered Crown, Zoe, I don't remember her last name. She's a transgendered man. It's like the devil just brings out everything he can, right? It's like, it's such
Always.
a fit, fighting for children's rights, and they bring in a transgendered prosecutor who does not give a shit about children's rights. So they, the second one, the Crown gets up and spews pretty much the same thing. Oh, don't let him out, blah, 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 but doesn't really put up a fight. My lawyer comes up, says, hey, man, we got a bracelet for him. We got friends. He lives in his own house. We want him on house arrest sort of thing till his trial. Everything's, he's not tried to contact his daughter in jail. He's following the rules. It's been like 9 months. He's been in here. Enough's enough. So the judge reserves her decision. And this is her reply when she denies me bail the second time. Well, nobody here seems to be taking seriously the fact that Mr. Jackson's friends will likely kidnap his daughter, meet him somewhere near the border. He'll cut his bracelet and they'll run away together. We'll never see either one of them ever again. That was the reason for denying me bail. The only friends I had was a Christian couple who had been foster parents for 20 some years.
Wow.
And they said that they would go, and in order to kidnap my daughter, they had to be violent, obviously.
Right.
And go in there and hurt my wife and take my child. But that was the reason for denying me bail. It's just absurd. And then when I got out of jail, what happened was they contacted my lawyer, called me on a Friday in January, said, hey, good news. If you plead guilty today, I'll have you out by the end of the day. The Crown is willing to give you time served, and you have to plead guilty, though. I said, absolutely not. Never. And so he said, okay, I figured you'd say that. And then all of a sudden, a month later, I get a call saying you're being released. So they released me on bail, and I was out on bail until April or May, actually, of 24 when I had my trial. During that period, is there any questions?
No, I'm fascinated. Normally I'd have lots, but yeah.
I'm just blown away. We know that the court system is very corrupt right now. We know that the Liberal government has an agenda put forward by a shadow government. We know that they've appointed over 600 judges. So we know that there was very few, a small little handful of lawyers that are actually on the up and up and actually want to help people and do the right thing and actually believe in the law. And the rest of them, again, appointed or corrupt or looking to advance their career. So looking to make any sort of precedent and name for themselves, doing what the government wants, knowing that the only way to get a judgeship is by appointment. So.
Is that a handful or a handful of lawyers you say you can trust?
A handful. One.
Because I know when I put things in one hand, I can't pile it very high because it spills out. Takes kind of two to really cup something of substance.
Just one handful.
Okay. Well, if you could point those out later in my life, I'd love to hear their names because I haven't found any.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
I don't know if they do family law, and actually criminal law. Colin Brown would be criminal law, but I don't know that this is what he specializes in. But he is 100% a fighter, and he is on side, and he's gone through what you've gone through. So
I've got one lawyer I can, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. There was a time where I wouldn't speak ill of anyone because of my faith and because of my belief. But I've seen such, what's the word, shysters out there nowadays, and seeing who's been taking advantage of the situation in our country. And I'm willing to call them out. And one during this whole process was the big famous Leighton Gray. So a friend of mine from the States who's been helping and supporting me all this time, met him at a Christian weekend for men in Alberta. And he said to me, this man's now my best friend. He said, Michael, let me call Leighton Gray and talk to him. And I said, no, I don't like the man. I find him arrogant. And I always have a sense about people, a very good, I guess you could call it. I just kind of can figure out people pretty well. So I said, my discernment on him is he's not trustworthy. But, and he kept asking and asking. I said, okay, fine, whatever. Like we're in desperate situation, right? And, because my lawyer had quit. And so he calls him up and he calls me back and he says, man, we had like a 4-hour conversation. We prayed together, all this and that. And he wants to help you. And I'm like, come on. And he says, I'm telling you, I know when people pray, I know if they're real or not. And I'm like, I don't believe him, but I say, okay, I'll talk to him. So a week later, I have this hour-long conversation. I'm in Edmonton over the phone with Leighton. He's blowing sunshine up my ass for an hour. Oh, you're a Canadian hero. I can't believe what you've been through. My other partner, James Woke, is a high conflict family lawyer. We prayed about it as our firm, and we want to bring you out of this. We support you, and we know that this is the most important case in Canadian history. And a lot of people will, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling the both of you and everyone listening, this is one of the most important cases in Canadian history. If you stand for your children and fight for your children, this is far more important than people who've groveled in court apologizing for, doing other things. And I'm not going to get into that, but we know there's a group out there who's collecting all the crowdfunding and all the money for their cases. And this is far more important, and I'm getting no support. So
Yes.
this is important. So anyways, I say, well, great. I mean, that's awesome if that's the truth. Oh, yeah. So my friend, I don't have a pot to piss in. My friend works out and sends him $13,000 retainer on a Thursday afternoon. And we sign it, send it back. So technically, Leighton's my lawyer.
Yes.
Well, the following week on a Wednesday, I have a court appearance. I'm out of jail, and I don't know what I should say or what I should do. So I just called the office, and I said, yeah, I'm not asking for representation at this hearing. I know it's quick, but what should I tell them, basically? And okay, we'll get back to you. And I get this line of text from Leighton Gray on my cell phone accusing me of being an absolute piece of shit, that he never agreed to represent me, that I'm the problem, and I'm just this just accusation. And I have it all saved, and I can provide it for anybody. I'm not afraid anymore. These people are grifters. These people are jumping on the bandwagon, trying to make millions of dollars for their firms and themselves. They don't give a shit about this country, right? Leighton Gray and Gerald Rass sending people down the States, to try and work out deals on the 51st state for Alberta. I'm not getting into where Canada is and what's going on with Trump and all that, but these people are just out to make money, and I'm convinced of it. So that was done. No lawyer. So during the period I was on bail until my trial, we had voir dire hearings, management hearings about the trial. So I had Dr. Byron Bridle, Dr. Paul Alexander, two of the best. Bridle is one of the best virologists in the world.
Yes.
And Paul Alexander is what he does is he delineates the information. So he's an expert at breaking it all down and bringing the research in, and he's very good at that. So I had them both. They both wrote reports for free on my behalf. We had a voir dire hearing. That's to prove that Byron Bridle is an expert witness. We had that in a full day hearing. He appeared by video with my lawyer. And what was I going to say? My trial judge, her name is Heather McMillan Brown.
Right.
Appointed by Trudeau the same day as the judge who took away my custody while I was on the run. We'll get in that later. But anyways, a corrupt judge. And she reserved her decision. And I'll tell you, during the voir dire hearing, a full day, my lawyer went through all the acclamations of Byron Bridle, just long, he's done everything, right?
Yes.
The Crown attorney, and I'm not saying this to be mean, is devoid of common sense. Is not a good Crown attorney at all. Couldn't put an argument together if her life depended on it, or his life depended on it.
Right.
His reason for not wanting Byron Bridle to be expert witness is because he never administered the vaccine in the hospital.
Here's a man who's made his career on vaccines, saying, please don't take this one. And because he didn't administer them in the hospital to see the adverse reactions himself, wow.
That's their argument. So he gets denied, of course. Mm-hmm. And so I never called Paul Alexander for a voir dire hearing because they would have done the same thing. I didn't want to waste his precious time. So he gets denied. And one of the reasons the judge says in her decision is, well, I don't even know why you're asking for this guy to be an expert witness. What's your point? And it's like Harry Carey. It makes no sense, right? So that's done. So another important thing in here is double jeopardy. So we've all watched the old movie Tommy Lee Jones and Ashley Judd, Double Jeopardy, where you can't be charged with the same crime twice.
Yes.
So when they arrested me, I was charged with Section 282 of the Criminal Code, abduction and contravention of a child, or in contravention of a parenting order. That's it. No other charge, no this or that or abuse or nothing, just that. A couple weeks after I'm sitting in a jail cell, I get served with a civil charge of contempt. So it's not criminal, it's civil. It's totally different. So, and it's in family court. They want to find me in contempt of court for not following a court order.
That didn't exist.
Well,
Well, it existed, but it didn't because you put a stay on it or appealed it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, the one of the funny things is that the actual court order they named to find me in contempt on the criminal side didn't even exist. They listed a court order that never even existed, and it still went through trial, and I was still found guilty on a court order that never existed. But anyways, what they charged me in the family court on the contempt was on our custody agreement court order that, you know, you have her till this time and blah, 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 and I didn't return her. So they charged me in contempt of that. But basically, both charges were of the same offense, the same date, the same region, locality. Everything was the same. The circumstances, the individuals, it's completely identical. So it's double jeopardy. It's literally 100% double jeopardy. So they should have picked one or the other. So in family court, it got railroaded through. I was given a private lawyer named Alex Deacon from Regina. He works for Willows, Walsh, Orr, and Brundage. They had to use a private one because my ex had legal aid. So I think I'm getting a deal, and I get a lawyer totally sold me out. It gets up to a couple of weeks before this contempt trial. I'm sitting in jail. I'm in family court, and I have this contempt trial. They want to serve me with up to 6 months in jail and all this sort of stuff on top of the criminal. So we're going through this process. They appoint Justice Michael McGaw, M-E-G-A-W. And the reason why they picked him was because when COVID started, he was the first judge in Saskatchewan to rule on a situation where parents didn't want their child vaccinated. And he denied any evidence to go against the vaccine. He had expert witnesses, Dr. Malthouse from BC and others. He denied them their reports, and it was a one-sided thing. And he put an order out in favor of the vaccine. So they took him and put him in charge of my case now on the family side.
Oh, not looking good at that point.
Yes. So in the first hearing, sitting in my jail cell on a little cell phone. The first hearing with this Alex Deacon from Willows, Walsh, Orr, and Brundage in Regina. The first thing, Justice McGaw picks up the phone. He says, Mr. Deacon, first thing I'm going to do here is remove Mr. Jackson's custody fully. While I was on the run, they took it away, but it was temporary. They still gave me supervised access. He picks up the phone and says to the lawyer, I'm removing it indefinitely. If he ever wants to see his kid again, he's got to come all the way back to court and apply for new custody, blah, blah, blah. But everything that he had is gone. It's done. Mother goes, oh, yeah, no worries. And I'm on the phone yelling and screaming, you can't do this. You can't do this. And he says, you shut up. You can't speak. You have a lawyer. Now, remember, I've been self-represented my whole life in this court. And so this is payback, right?
Wow.
So they take away my custody. It's gone. Then a couple weeks, like I say, we do bunch of fandangling around. We ask that my ex-wife be brought on the stand for the contempt. We ask for the judge to recuse himself because he's already ruled a whole bunch of things. He denies them all, fines me like $2,500 for even asking, and then forces us to go through a hearing. The lawyer, the weekend before the hearing starts on the contempt charge, the lawyer comes to the jail and says, yeah, I didn't prepare anything. I just wanted you to plead guilty. And I said, I've told you for 3 months I'm not going to plead guilty. He goes, well, you can't win, so you're going to have to ask for more time and just say you couldn't make up your mind. I said, nope, you're fired. I went to the hearing on the Monday, and I told them what happened, and they wouldn't let me speak because I'm not allowed to talk about client privilege about what my lawyer did. So they give me more time. I wait a month. They give me another lawyer, Rock DuPont, who is from a firm in Regina, private again, DuPont Law or whatever it's called. He comes in wearing a mask into the jail, says, oh, this doesn't mean anything. I'm just immunocompromised. I'm an old man. Says, I'm the best lawyer in the world, practice all over the country, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to fight for you, blah, blah, blah. So we go through a couple months until the next hearing again for that. We get to the trial, contempt trial. My wife's lawyer, Jill Drennan, she gets up and she says, I'm all just faking it. It's got nothing to do with the vaccine, blah, 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 blah. And then it's my side's turn. My lawyer stands up and he says, and this time we have reports from Bridal and Alexander. We have all sorts of documented evidence that was filed, affidavits, everything. He gets up and he says, well, Your Honor, Mr. Jackson took his daughter so she wouldn't be vaccinated. And he sat down. That was it. That was his whole argument. He never provided affidavits, reports, nothing.
Wow.
Sold me out just like that. And the judge, even, I was surprised, maybe because he's protecting his own ass, says to the lawyer, well, wait a minute. I told you what to argue. There's like 5 points. You didn't argue anything. He said, do you need more time to prepare? You want to enter written submissions? And Rock DuPont goes, oh, yeah. I'll take 2 weeks. And yeah. So it gets held over, adjourned. So I'm in jail. I don't really have money for phone calls, but I have to call this guy. Actually, lawyers are free. So I call him the next day, and I was like, wasn't mad, because I can't be in my position. So
Right.
I'm like, Rock, like, what happened? What did you do? Fuck you. You don't listen. You're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. And he hung up on me.
Wow.
Yeah. It's Hollywood movie, but we all know Hollywood's a bunch of pedophiles, so we can't trust them with my story. But it's so brutal. And you're in jail and you're dealing with this and you can't comprehend it, right? Like, I've got 1 or 2 friends left in the world. I've got no support, and it's rough. Like, it's all just looking like there's no hope, right? Except for God. God's the only thing that kept me going. So that gets done. A couple weeks later, I say, I need a new lawyer, this one, blah, blah. They don't believe me. He says I fired him to legal aid and that I was unruly. And so I don't get another lawyer. So Justice McGaw writes his decision, finds me guilty of the contempt charge, and fines me money, sentences me to 60 days in jail, and just writes this long-winded decision about how abusive and how I don't respect the law and I'm just evil and blah, 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 blah. But now that that's done and I'm found guilty, my lawyer goes, well, now they have to drop the criminal, so don't worry about it. And I'm like, well, I am worried about it because nothing I did was wrong. And he goes, well, just let it go, 60 days, whatever. You've been in there 9 months or however long it's been. Now we'll get him on double jeopardy. So he files an autrefois convict, AUTREFOIS, and then convict. It's French, but it's a Canadian law that's basic double jeopardy. You can't be charged twice for the same circumstance and all that stuff. Goes to court. He presents his argument in front of Judge McMillan Brout, and it's very good. He writes a summary out for me, shows me, compares everything. It's 100% double jeopardy, 100%, no doubt, like black and white. You can't. There's no gray.
Right.
The Crown transgender gets up and says, "Well, we can't allow him off on that. That's not right. He'd be getting away with it." Judge agrees. That's her decision. She reserves her decision for like 3 months and comes out with, "We can't let that happen. It wouldn't be right." No legal precedent, no nothing. Just we can do whatever we want if we're trying to prove a point. So then my lawyer files, that other thing we have in Canada, I think it's written on toilet paper. So if you get it wet or blow your nose, it's gone. I think it's called
the Charter of Rights. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah. The charter with the big loophole right in section 1. Right,
just like Alberta did with their new one, right?
Yeah.
You got it.
Yes.
You got it.
Yeah. Really, really beneficial to every citizen in the country.
Yes.
So in that, we have 11H of the charter. Same thing. Can't be charged with the same criminal offense twice and blah, blah, blah. So he has a hearing on that to try and go again. What's the judge come back with? I already told you it's not going to work. Sorry, dismisses it. So I go to trial. So we're getting close to trial. I think I told you my lawyer had quit. We send him a letter saying, how come you haven't got the communication text between me and my ex-wife or the 911 tapes from the cops breaking my door down? Within 30 seconds of us sending the email, I get well, it's probably more like 5 minutes. I get an email back saying he quit. Luke Kapow from Regina quits. He's been my lawyer for like 9 months or a year and a half, whatever. We question him on 911 tapes and he quits on the spot. So then we go to court, and you have to go to court. And I go to court twice a month, once for management and once for the judge to discuss. Like we have a trial coordinator judge and then a trial judge. So we have to go to both of these idiots on a regular basis to try and, work out what's happening at trial. So the next hearing I go to, they say, oh, so you fired your lawyer. I said, no. They said, well, that's not what I heard. And I said, oh, well, he actually wrote an email stating that it was a scheduling issue. So how did you come up with that? Well, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, you write the record on what you're saying because this is on transcript. She ignores me, whatever. Then we go to my trial judge. She accuses me of the same thing. So during my lawyer, in between that, my lawyer had to have the hearing where he removes himself. You have to do it in front of a judge.
Yes.
So when we go to our trial judge after he did that, she accuses me of the same thing. And I said, how? I said, I think I called her an outright liar. I said, you're a liar and you know it because Luke Capel stated on the record, which is on transcripts, the reason why he quit was saying he even specifically noted it had nothing to do with me, which it obviously did because he was probably getting close and they didn't want anybody defending me.
Correct.
And they tortured him to quit. Same thing with Leighton Gray, I'm sure. He had a weekend he took the money and everything. Somebody probably called him on the weekend and said, hey, you don't help this guy or else, right? Who knows? But anyway, so he's gone and I have no lawyer. And so then the judge says, I'm going to appoint you a lawyer. I said, no, you're not. She says, yes, I am. And I have a right to. There's a new Supreme Court ruling that came down this year. It's Alberta versus Kashai was the decision. It came out in 24, where a guy who had murdered 2 people went crazy in the courtroom, like ballistic. They had to put him in the chair, and then they eventually had to move him to a different courtroom, and he watched his own murder trial by video. They used that to justify appointing me a lawyer.
Clearly, the circumstances are the same.
Wow.
Clearly.
So what they do is they appoint what's called an amicus curiae.
Yes.
And that's, loyal to the crown, but they supposed to just help you fandangle your way.
Yeah.
Which means they help you go the wrong direction so you get fucked, and more fucked. Right? Which is literally true.
Right.
So, so I'm asking questions working up to the trial, and he's telling me, oh, no, you don't do that. And oh, no, you can't do that. And oh, no, you shouldn't do that. And then you find after the trial, all those things got used against me that I never did because he told me not to do them, right? So anyways, he gets a point. His name's Brady McKnight, Brady Knight from Saskatoon. I don't want to say a lot about him, but I sure don't think he was on my side.
Right.
So we go to the trial, and the day before the trial, I get the jury list. And it says their name and where they're from. I live in Caryville, Saskatchewan, and we have, I'm sure it's the same in Ontario, you have judicial centers.
Yes.
So wherever you're charged, the closest judicial center, city or whatever, that's where your hearings and trials and all that happen.
Yes.
So the closest to me is Estevan, which is an hour west. It's coal mining, oil field, farming. People like me, like small community, not wanting to vaccinate, right?
Right.
What do they do? Somehow they move my judicial center to Regina, to the city.
Wow.
Where there's a 96% vaccination rate. And you know how they pick the jury in Saskatchewan now? It's changed in the last 3 years? By their health card numbers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Instead of their address, they used to just do address. Now they've changed it to your health card number. So wouldn't you think when we're doing jury selection, most of my jury are nurses or whatever in the health field, all stating they believe in the vaccination, but they won't let it affect their decision. They promise.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
That's the center of the case. We're not going to let it. No conflicts here.
Yeah. So, anyways, I complain about it. Too bad. You're not changing anything. It's too late. Even though you notify me 2 days before the trial of who the jury is. But anyway, so we go through the trial. I have my friend with me from the States. I don't want to say his name because, well, he's probably already known, but I don't want the government fighting him if he tries to come across or anything.
No point flagging someone that doesn't need to be flagged. Yeah.
Right.
So he's there with me. We pick the jury and we go in, right? So I'm talking about cross-examining my wife because I'm my own lawyer, right? Nope. And of course, the Crown never objects to anything. It's always the judge. Since the beginning, whenever we've had trial management or things with the judge, the trial judge, The Crown has never, ever objected. It's the judge. The judge says to the Crown, wait a minute, aren't you going to blah, blah, blah? Wait a minute, aren't you going to blah, blah, blah?
Wow.
The whole way through.
The judge is steering the way of the trial, which means somebody's got to the judge, he's following an agenda, and he's got to make sure that it stays online because they are 100% using your case as a precedent-setting case. So no other parent will stand up. And at the end of the day, it's about taking the authority away from parents.
Right.
Yes. You got it, girl. You got it, girl. Find me someone like you and I'll get married right away. Is there any out there?
She's taken.
No, I said like her. I said someone like you.
Yeah, careful what you wish for. She's a bit of a bulldog.
Well, I think we all need bulldogs to a degree.
That's right.
So that, I mean, the trial is just like, you got to be kidding. So then they say, the judge is like, oh, so I thought I would bring up the fact of Mr. Jackson shouldn't be able to cross-examine his ex-wife. I'm like, what? And the Crown's like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was just waiting until you were done. So now they want to put an order. They want to stop me from doing it. And I'm like, on what basis? Oh, we have precedent. You know what the precedent is?
No.
The guy who raped a woman who was self-represented, who they didn't want to cross-examine his rape victim.
Right. Now I understand that ruling, the mental anguish, emotional distress. I understand that, but this is not that. This isn't.
No, this is not that. Yeah. I thought you were saying you agree with that.
No,
with my ex-wife.
No.
Yeah.
I get they wouldn't want to put the victim of a rape case through that again. I get that. It's rough enough already. I get that. But this isn't even anywhere close to that.
Well, they don't want to put an unstable psychopathic mother hell-bent on vengeance in the same anguish situation where she's not going to be able to answer anything because everything she says is a lie. So it's not much different.
No, they knew that she would say the wrong thing. She would erupt.
Exactly.
And the jury would hear that and then they would go, oh, and the judge doesn't have a whole lot of control over the jury when they come back with their decision. So yeah, I get it.
So that was a hard one, and I fought it, and I lost, and they used that case law. So they had this all worked out, right? So then get a load of this. The amicus curiae gets appointed to ask her questions, and I say, well, I can make all the questions then, and he can ask them. No,
what?
You're not allowed to make the questions. It's up to him to make the questions.
That doesn't seem right. This feels
loyal to the Crown.
Feels like you have a slam dunk for an appeal case here for sure.
Well, you would think so, but we'll get in. It's not, because the whole, as I'll tell you in a few minutes, I'm almost done. The whole Court of Appeal in Saskatchewan has all been fixed for this too.
Correct.
It's going to be uncanny what I'm going to tell you. So anyways, he asks her questions but he does ask her. He brings up and he shows I have the transcripts from our custody trial where she says, I don't believe in vaccinations and blah, blah, blah. And he hands that to her and she goes, yeah, I said that. So she admits it.
Right.
And then that's it. We get her to admit it, blah, blah, blah. And of course she's crying on the stand. And I get up there, I'm under cross-examination. They ask me so all sorts of questions and blah, blah, blah. And at one point I said to the Crown, yeah, oh, what are you good at? What do you do? I'm a carpenter, this and that. And I'm also a damn fine father. One of the best. And I said that on the court, and I never backed down. Like, we've had some of these famous people in this country collecting donations who groveled with a court and apologized for what they did and asked for mercy for what they did. So I guess they didn't really believe in what they did. I believed in what I did, and I'd been offered the free road, and I denied it. And I stood up in there, not just for me and not just for my daughter, but for every Canadian in this country. I stood up, and maybe in North America and whatever, and in Britain, because it's precedent setting. And, it just disturbs me beyond all belief that I can't get any support for my appeal. That people are just willing to sit back and they send their money to Pulowski and all these other people, Laura Lynn, who, travel the world on it. But I can't get 25 grand for my appeal. I got 4 on Give, Send, Go. Right. And I've even produced my documents from the lawyers showing what's been paid on retainer and everything else. There's nothing to hide, right?
Yes.
So anyways, I get the RCMP on the stand. I cross-examine them. tear them to absolute pieces. It shows them on the video breaking my door down, lying about the court order. You know, it's all obvious. And
Correct.
then we get to the last day, and the judge gives the jury the instruction. Oh, one more thing. So I brought in as evidence the vaccine injury reports from Health Canada for that period that I was on the run, just for that period. Print it all out into books, one to each jury member, and I start to talk about it. You're not allowed to discuss it. What? You're not allowed to discuss it. You're not a doctor.
That's your defense, and you've got the evidence.
Yeah. I said, I don't have to discuss it. This is on Health Canada's website for everybody to see. Nope, you can't discuss it. Showing all the injuries. So that's another thing. So it comes the last day, jury instruction. Judge turns to the jury and says, there's a defense to Section 282 of the Criminal Code. If a parent believes, doesn't have to prove, just has to believe that the child would suffer harm, they cannot be found guilty of this offense. It's written right into the code. Judge turns to the jury and says, this doesn't apply to Mr. Jackson. If you find that Mr. Jackson took his daughter, you must find him guilty of the offense. Hour and a half. Jury went for lunch and came back guilty.
Wow.
There are so many legal reasons you could appeal, but I know you have to get permission to appeal. And because we know that this is a massive agenda and they need to set this precedent to take away parents' authority over their own children, they're going to deny your appeal. And then you'll try and appeal again to the Supreme Court on, public interest, because it is. And depending on, I guess, I can't even say what government or what party is in charge at that point in time, because I don't even believe that we have separate parties.
It's this guy.
Correct.
It's this guy in charge of our country.
Exactly. It's all one uniparty under Satan's control.
Yes.
And unless we change the way our electoral system works and our government system works, you've got an appointed judge on the Supreme Court that exactly is not working for the people, but working for the crown, working for the bar, working for the shadow governments, working for Satan at the end of the day. And they need you to have a guilty verdict in order to use this against every other parent. And I know you're not the only parent that is suffering this, because I don't know how many calls I got when I put out the Know Your Rights package. How many parents called me in tears in the exact same situation as you and not knowing what to do. And I'm like, I can't tell you what to do. And we know the courts are corrupt right now, but I can tell you if it was my kid, I would have done exactly what you did. Only I probably would have tried to cross the border or sneak them out into another country where they couldn't extradite, because nobody's.
I know. And I had the opportunity. I had individuals contact me and offer me, but I didn't want to do that. And I'll tell you something that's another uncanny thing. Look up Dawn Walker of Saskatoon. So while I was on the run, she did the same thing, but she was only gone a month. She lived in Saskatoon. She's an Indigenous woman who worked for the FSIN, Federal Sovereign Indigenous Nations.
Right.
She was a lawyer or something like that for them. She took her boy, faked their death, parked her brand new shiny Ford red pickup truck with the tires in the river, in the Saskatoon River, and then got fake passports, forged documents, the whole thing. I don't know the number, forged a bunch of checks to get money, crossed the border and got caught in Idaho, I believe, or Oregon, really quickly.
Wow.
So that husband, that father, was left thinking his child was dead. Mine got a video interview of my daughter happy and healthy, saying whatever. Dawn Walker got back to Regina extradited. She got bail in 5 days. And she pled guilty. She got a year's house arrest. She has to be home from 11 till 7, and that's it.
Wow.
Native, though. Different rules.
And a woman, and not COVID.
Yes.
So then we went through my sentencing period after I was found guilty at my trial in May. And then we had my sentencing was in December. Or actually a couple months, like October and all that, September, October. And during my sentencing hearing, I'm supposed to present arguments, right, as to
Yes.
why I shouldn't be sentenced. And again, I never backed down, never said I did anything wrong, no remorse. But in my sentencing, I have to say why I have no remorse, because of what I believe and what I did. I protected my daughter from her mother who wanted to almost murder her just to get revenge on me, right? That's the one you should be looking at, not me. I did the right thing. So went through all that. And then I started explaining what I went through in jail. So they stopped the sentencing hearing instantly. Whoa. And again, not the Crown, the judge. Whoa. Aren't you going to object? Object to what? Well, you're not allowed to just sit here and tell everybody what happened in jail in your sentencing hearing. Well, of course I am. I'm supposed to say what I've been through and how that affects and everything else. No. Shut it all down, because the press is there all the time, right? CBC and CTV and the Leader Post. They don't want them hearing everything I went through in jail.
Right.
So they cancel it, and they put me in a room with the amicus, and he says, you need to drop all this. Don't worry about it. Let it go. Fuck you. I'm going to tell them what happened. Okay. Go back in, and they say, okay, well, you got to go on the stand right now and tell everything. I said, I don't have anything with me. No evidence, no documents, nothing. Doesn't matter. You have to do it right now. Okay. I got a pretty good memory. I get up, I tell them all the abuse I went through, what the guards did, my hunger strike, all that sort of stuff. And I'm getting into that, and they shut it down again. The Crown says, okay. This is very serious. We have to call police, do an investigation. This is torture and all this. We can't just let him talk about this. So we're going to have an adjournment. They adjourn it like a month. We come back, and I'm ready to go. And the Crown says, yeah, we don't object. We don't believe anything he says. We're just going to let it go.
Wow.
Because again, they can't have that on record, because once it's on record, on court record, the police must investigate, and they'd be investigating their own for abuse and harassment charges. And gosh forbid if they do that, because they don't want their own going to jail. End of story. They want them to have the authority to stomp on your rights, to scare you and stop you from knowing the law and using the law to your advantage.
Yeah. So again, like, who's really stupid? Them for thinking we're stupid? Because I mean, they just seem like idiots, don't they? Like, the stuff they do in that, it's like, it's so obvious what they're doing, but they act like, because they're dumb. Like, whenever you lie, it takes another lie to cover it up, and another lie and another lie and another lie. It's obvious who's lying and who's telling the truth, right? It always comes out. So on December 6th, I go back for my sentencing. And the judge is angry, visibly angry during my sentencing. She's like beet red. She's pursing her lips. She's very angry. And, I have to follow the rule of law and what did she call it? The comparison law or something, where I can't give you more than somebody else and blah, blah, blah. And as they had entered 20 cases as case precedent and wanted me to do additional time, like 2 years, right? In back to jail. And I had to argue it, and they provided 20 case laws in Canada, and they were all like parents who'd taken their kids for like 20 years, 10 years, 11 years out of the country. Some of the kids never even came back, and they got like probation. They got like, nobody got a sentence like I got. None of them. And they all got away with murder. I'm not saying they shouldn't have, but that was the rule of law. So she's mad. She's angry. She goes, I sentenced you to time served. But she was mad. She wanted to give me I knew they wanted to give me like life if they could, right?
Yes.
And then she began to explain how I am the evil that is why this law was made, to combat evil men like me, evil, abusive, controlling men who are just like, will do anything to not follow the law. Like, she just painted me as this demonic thing when she's actually the demonic thing, right? So I got time served, plus a year probation and 2 hours community service, 200 hours. And we appealed it. I appealed it on the very same day. So I've had to already waste. I've managed to get $10,000 to the. Her name is Catherine Polka from Little Law in Saskatoon. She's taking the appeal. She's been to the Court of Appeal before and to the Supreme Court. I don't know where it's going to go, what she's going to be like, because it's throwing dice. But she ate up 6,000 of the 10,000 just to get the stay put on my sentence. So on the criminal charge, And that's one thing you said. You don't have to ask permission in a criminal for appeal. It's automatic. If you want to appeal, they can't deny it. So you stay the appeal, the conviction, but I never knew you have to do a separate court hearing to stay the sentence. So they wanted to put me on this probation and community service. I couldn't leave my area. And I said, no, appeal that. I'd been on bail for 2 years and never did anything. Mm-hmm. Why should I have to be under restriction? So that cost $6,000 just to do that. So there's only 443 or something left in the account, and the appeal hasn't even started. So we're waiting for transcripts to come soon, and then we'll go forward with appeal. And one more thing I'm going to point out that people should know is, so I talked about judges. So when I'm on the run, they have a secret little court date where I'm not there, and they take away my joint custody. They take away the joint custody, but they leave me supervised access. The judge who did that was Justice McCreary, MC and then Creary, Creary. And the lawyer for my ex at that hearing, because it was family court, was Jill Drennan. 3 months later, Jill Drennan, who's a legal aid lawyer, gets made a judge. Justice McCreary,
good for her,
who was the judge who took the custody away, she gets made an appeal court judge 3 months later. No, it gets even better. Then Jill Drennan, who's been a judge for 3 months, 3 months later, she's on the appeal court of Saskatchewan as an appeal court judge. Tell me how a legal aid lawyer goes from legal aid lawyer to appeal court judge in 6 months.
That never happens.
Never.
Oh,
Justice
my gosh.
Lure, Justice Lure, who was the one at the appeal court, who told me to return my daughter before I left, he's now the Chief Justice of the province. 6 of the 7 judges that are on the appeal court in Saskatchewan, there's 7. 6 of the 7 have all been involved in this.
Wow.
Well, they all did as they were told, and they all got the promised rewards at the end of the rainbow. So,
yes.
And that's where our court system is right at this moment in time. There are very few judges who are willing to actually follow the law and look out for the little guy. And those who are at the end of their career. And there's, again, a small handful of them at the end of their career that are brave enough and courageous enough to actually follow the law.
Yeah. The rest just make the law up.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and one more, and I'll end this. So over a year ago, on February 27th, on my birthday last year in 24, I've been going to court every month now. I go to court for me to explain why I can't pay child support every month. And it's just pure out harassment, right? I have nothing, no opportunities. I still have a bad knee, blind in one eye. And it's just every month they drag me to court under the threat of arrest if I don't go, which costs me time and fuel that I don't have. I have to go to Estevan and explain this bullshit to them. And every time it's the same thing, adjourned to the next month. So in February 27th, I filed November of 23, I filed an application to have my custody reestablished. And in that, I was just feisty, right? You had no right to take away my custody. Blah, 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 blah. I never harmed my daughter. I've been following your rules. I've been on bail. I want to see my child now. You restore my custody. And then I showed them the proof that I hadn't had any income, all my tax returns, dropped this child support bullshit, blah, blah, blah. They screwed around, changed lawyers 3 times. I didn't get a hearing till February 27th of 24. I go in there and I get a hearing. I'm standing in there. They always keep me to the end. Every month I go to court, they say Michael Jackson to the end because he's going to embarrass everybody because he calls judges liars and crooks and thieves and child molesters.
Everybody else will see that you know the law and they'll go, whoa, wait a minute. And they'll use that. That's why they save you to the end.
Most importantly, no fear.
Exactly.
Even if you don't know the law, do not fear these crooked people, right?
Right.
Correct.
So I go in and I wait to the end, and the guy before me is this, I don't know if he's crazy, but he's got issues, and he's got 2 big shopping bags of documents, and he's trying to fight his house being taken. And he's confused now. He's there for like 2 hours, and it ends. And then she says to me, and I come up to the bench. She says, just so you know, you only have 20 minutes. I said, what? I said, I just listened to this guy for 2 hours. You're telling me I have 20 minutes? Well, those are the rules. We gave him leeway because of blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, I'm going to take as long as I need to take. There's a lot here. There's a ton of accusations because after I filed that I want my child back, of course, now they're hinting I'm a sexual predator. No proof or anything. Just we think he's going to be one and all these other things. And he's abusive and he's mean and he says all sorts of nothing about my daughter, right? So then so we go through the hearing and I'm calling everything out and she shuts me down. I think I got like 30 minutes and she shuts it down. Her name is Justice Wildeman, Wildeman. Do you know what? She reserved her decision. It's now been over a year and no decision. I haven't talked to my daughter since the day I was arrested. No reason, no court decision, nothing. They're just refusing to even release a decision.
Because they're trying to find a reason and they can't find one. So they're hoping you will give them one on a silver platter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They're pushing your buttons. They're testing your patience and grace. And thankfully, you are a Christian man that believes in God. And whoa.
But I'm losing it. Like I do believe now, like I listen to all these people on Twitter and that going back and forth about the government. Our country, I don't care what anybody says. I'll debate you all day long. Our country's done. It's finished. Mm-hmm. You can't come back from this. Our court system will have to be brought to cement and rock, brought to crumble down to its foundation and be rebuilt. It does not work. These lawyers, the whole system, it's corrupt. It needs to be destroyed and brought down. And I know you say, you know, a handful of lawyers, whatever. That's enough to tell you right there, it can't be fixed.
Yep.
Yeah. It can't. There's no judicial reform that can fix what they're doing. You know, when a judge can turn to a jury and say the law doesn't apply to him, you do what I tell you. Mm-hmm. That can't be fixed. What are you going to do? These judges need to be arrested and tried by the people and locked up. And maybe worse in some cases, depending what they've done, who they've harmed. You know, there's people get thrown in jail who get killed in jail.
Yes.
And they're not supposed to be there.
So your Twitter handle is God's Offense, correct?
Yeah, it's supposed to be an S, not a C. I must have typed that in wrong. Dumb me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a big mistake. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's you. God's Offense. Yeah, no, you're correct. I was wrong there. Yeah. So I'm glad we
fix that.
There
because it's God on the offense. You know, like we as Christians, we've always been on the defense, right? Like hiding, and we need to be on the offense. We need to know that the only one who can fix the situation in this country is God. There's no one else. You can't trust anybody. People are cowards. You know, it's not even keyboard cowards anymore. It's like, or keyboard warriors. It's keyboard cowards. Because all these spaces on Twitter talking about this and that, what does that do? You think you're educating the people whose eyes are glazed over? You're not.
No.
You know, it's desperate.
Well, I'm glad we clarified because I couldn't find your account there for a second. So that's good. and you can follow that entire story on your Twitter feed.
Yeah, and there's lots of interviews in detail just like this where they can watch.
Right. Okay. And then you can donate to your legal fund at Give Send Go. GD8CK is the number there, but you can just type in Michael Jackson's legal battle and it'll come up right away. So.
But at the end of the day, if you are a parent, you need to get behind this legal battle. You need to get behind this appeal. If you are a parent that doesn't want the government or a judge or a school to tell you what you can and cannot do with your child, then you need to back this man because this is setting precedent right now. And you are losing your rights as we speak. Yes. This gentleman needs help. And if you're a lawyer who is a parent, what are you doing sitting back, letting this man get torn apart in the courts? Do your job.
Yes.
Do your job. I get you swore an allegiance to the bar, but if you are a parent, you also swore allegiance to that child at your feet. Mm-hmm. And this is how you keep allegiance to that child. And God gave you the gift of a child. So God damn it, protect him.
That's my
Protect
that's my
this
feeling.
man.
I'm a babysitter. As much
Oh.
as I love my daughter, my job is to protect her and to raise her to love God. You know, it's an arrow in my quiver, right? It's a blessing, and people don't realize right now the precedent is already set. If I don't win, the precedent's there. The Crown came out and announced to the press. Now we have a precedent in this country where we can go against parents who don't want to follow the rules.
Right.
She said that on TV, right? It's out there now. And I've been telling people this and they don't listen. They don't believe it. We actually have an opportunity here now, right now, in the next 6 months, however long it takes to get this appeal, to set a precedent the other way, that a parent actually has the right to stop and defend their children if need be. And the court can't do anything about it. We can set that precedent in the law that we can stand behind. But if we don't, it goes the other way and you're all done.
And you're right. So many people are giving money to Rebel News and to all these grifters.
Yeah.
And all these lawsuits that are only pertain to one person that don't have public appeal. Yours actually has massive significance for the entire country. This is not about you getting your piece of the pie.
Yeah.
This is about parents establishing the right to protect their children.
Exactly. 100%. That's exactly what it is. And I've even told my you know, there's many points of appeal here. There's the double jeopardy. There's the judicial center, the jury, the no court order charge. There's so many things. I said the only way I want this turned over is on the defense, that a parent has the right to protect their children. If they're going to go and drop it and say, oh, no, okay, we'll let them off because it's double jeopardy. No, we need a precedent set in our favor. That's the point here. And we got 40 million Canadians. I don't know how many adults, but it just blows my mind that 10,000 can't put $10 in, because I know it's going to have to go back past the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. This will probably have to go to the Supreme Court of Canada. So 25,000 for this is just going to keep growing, right?
We have at least 1 million parents in Canada. At least 1 million parents. $1 from each parent in this country. $1. That's less than a coffee a day from Tim Hortons. Come on, people.
Let's do it this way. How many people donated thousands of dollars to David Menzies, who got arrested and never saw the inside of a courtroom for his legal defense fund?
Arrested and charges dropped. How much money did you send for that?
If that was you, why don't you donate double to this?
Exactly.
Right? Because he never saw the inside of a courtroom, and he's done that several times now.
And how many people went and saw Tucker Carlson in Alberta and spent the $75 to $1,000 per ticket? And what did that do for you? Nothing. And he took all that money back to the States. This man is fighting for you. He is standing up for you. He's standing up for your children. He's standing up for your parental rights. Get behind him. What is wrong with people? How can they justify spending money on tickets or spending money on a movie when you've got a man who is fighting for your parental rights and you can't even get behind him? A movie or a coffee is more important than this man and parental rights across the board. Get behind him. Forgo your Tim Hortons coffee tomorrow or your Starbucks coffee and give him $10. My gosh, or $1. Just $1.
It's bad. I mean, the prime case, what's going on right now, it's been on Facebook last little while. And the first thing we heard was this Amber Alert. And by the way, there was never an Amber Alert listed in my case. The RCMP came on live TV and said, we don't fear she's in any danger. And in my trial, they said the same thing. They never feared she was in any danger. So right now, Davis Lim, I don't know a lot about him. If you've heard the story, it's that Asian guy. He was a medic in the Canadian Army. And there was a Amber Alert in Vancouver because his child's sick and he wasn't following what the Children's Hospital in Vancouver wanted to do. So they took away all his kids. His wife went into catatonic, was in the hospital. They've just destroyed his life. I think he's got most of his kids back just in the last week, but I don't know anything about it. But I'm just saying, do some research. People are listening to this. And look, this isn't just me. Mark Carney sent his daughter or son away, 15 years ago to get this done? Out of country to another country to have his child sex changed. This is going to be the leader likely of our country. You know, this is where it's headed. Like, this government wants our children,
Yes.
bar none.
Yes. And it's amazing that your daughter's running around not wanting to get, the shots.
But was never vaccinated.
When it
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And what
you did right by talking to your child and educating her. Thank you.
Right. But when it works the other way. Now, when they want to give them a shot, they can give their own consent in an elementary school when the parents aren't around. They've now said that they can do that. But when they say no, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work in that favor.
It's so corrupt.
Right. And so now we know that the judicial system is nothing more than an unofficial penal system. The process is the punishment. And if you actually start winning and give a case that they cannot refute, they just drop it. They just drop it and they don't set a precedent. We've seen that 100 times. So, hopefully it goes through and hopefully you get to set a precedent. The happy byproduct is if you don't, is that all this stuff gets lifted and, and you can see your daughter again, hopefully.
Yeah.
You will be in our prayers for sure.
Yes.
And please, people, please. This is so, so important. There are really only, again, a handful, maybe 2 handfuls of cases that are actually public interest cases that deserve to be backed. Tamara Lynch, Chris Barber, they've got your millions of dollars. They don't need any more. And at the end of the day, probably most of that's going to Rebel News. So get behind somebody who actually can make a difference and who will actually affect your life. Because if you're a parent, you can rest assured that this case is going to affect you. It might not be this year, but it's coming in the very, very near future. If this man does not win these appeals because he didn't have the money to fight them, because you didn't support him, wait till it's your child and when it's affecting your family, because it is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you. Thank you for telling your story. That's a long, hard journey. I know you said you couldn't get it out in less than,
an hour and 20 minutes.
And I think we did pretty good in 2 hours. So that is the whole story. Head on over to Give, Send, Go, add your dollars. And please, we should maybe check in with you sooner than later. So we'll keep in touch with you and we'll get updates. And when it's time, you come back on the show and tell us how you're doing. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. It means a lot. Like I said, I've done a lot of interviews and, I understand, not being called back to do a second one. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just here to get the story out, but I think it's getting shadow banned, I've done there's a Courage for the Cure on Twitter. Beautiful lady named Robin. She's interviewed me 2 or 3 times. So I do have some support, actually, probably more fundraising from Australia than I do from actually Canada. And I get money from the States. But
yeah, States is good. The States are really supportive.
It's just, but again, when you look at it, like $4,000 is all that I raised. And one of them was $500 from a Chinese guy, Lone Traveler on Twitter. Really great gentleman who understands the precedent thing. Most people just think, maybe they think I'm arrogant because I just speak it out. But it's not to do with me. It's not what you think about me. It's about our rights. And I'm arrogant and I'm this way because this is so important. I'm not swearing and holding grudges and calling people assholes and blah, blah, blah. I'm not like that. I'm trying to get my point out and be understandable, right? That people get it. But it's just Canadians just seem to be like this, right? Like, or like this, I guess.
It's not on my doorstep, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah. But this is serious.
Yeah.
If Carney gets in, it's going to be bad. It'll be 100% taking our kids away. Yeah,
we'll throw that Give, Send, Go up there one more time. We love the people over at Give, Send, Go, by the way. Good people who are really trying to help. Head on over there. $20 is good. And if you really, really can't part with your money, at least share this show out.
Absolutely.
Because Michael was saying we're shadow banned heavily. We're visibility filtered heavily. We are one of the most shadow banned shows on the air. And so if you really want to help, get the word out. And beat those algorithms and share this show out.
Just send $1. If a million people send $1, he can afford to take this all the way. And this is going to help everybody. It's not just about Michael. And thank goodness, Michael, you understand the law and you've learned it inside and out. So
Right.
thank you for doing your homework and your research. And I've been saying this forever. If we are silent around our kids, they don't know either. So talk to your kids. This
Absolutely.
is their world that they live
Mhm.
in, and they deserve to have the information. Knowledge is power. Educate your children because the schools are not. Do not pass that responsibility on to the
Yeah.
indoctrination system or onto the government or onto the doctors or onto the church pastors because they're not doing it. It's your
That's
job.
right.
You were gifted
It's-
by children. Do your job.
Yeah, it's your responsibility to transfer your ethics, your morals, and your beliefs to your children. It's not brainwashing. It's your responsibility. That's why you're raising that child, to raise them to survive,
Right.
to love, to be like you, right?
Yeah.
Amen.
Right. They're going to help
Thank
us
you.
make a better world in the future. So,
Yes.
all right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Share, head over to that Give, Send, Go. Help out in any way you can. This is one of those important court cases, and we only play the important ones here.
Exactly.
So help out if you can in any way you can.
Share it to your email
right.
contacts, share it to your Telegram, to your Signal, to your X, to your Instagram, to your Cloud Hub, to your Truth Central. Just share it,
Right.
please.
Yes.
And
All
go
right,
to Give, Send, Go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Michael.
Good night.
Good night.